How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are here with our Final Fantasy XIV crafting and gathering guide for patch 5.3. We're going to say hello here to Master Craftsman and Gatherer Extraordinaire Pilot Flame. He'll be guiding us through on how we can make the most out of our crafting and gathering in this patch. We're going to be looking at where you can gather the new leaves, or whatever you want to call it, basically the botany and mining nodes that you need to be gathering for the new 3-star items to make the main items. We're going to be looking at how to collect the new 11 strike aether sand. We're going to be looking at ways to get slither sands, as they are somewhat expensive for people in terms of using them from your 1 beast tribe set of dailies that you get, or 500 yellow scrips. But we're going to be showing you how to basically maximize out on that with the new collectibles, as well as we're also going to be looking at ways you can get the sands from fishing, as well as the ephemeral nodes. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at macros and rotations for how to craft the gear itself. So if you haven't done so already, make sure to follow us here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, like the video if you enjoyed it. We're going to be doing a bunch of different Final Fantasy videos over on this channel for the time being. We may split it off eventually, but this is the first time I'm doing a guide, and I like crafting and gathering. I've been doing that a lot more rather than raiding itself, and I find it a lot more fun, although it has been a lot easier than previous patches or expansions, but I think we could definitely find a way to make it work. So without further ado, we're going to go check out and see what our Master Craftsman Pilot Flame is up to, and how we're going to be getting our new equipment and gear ready for this patch. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at here is where to collect the new node called Tender Dill. So this is going to be used to make the Deft Hand Dissolvents, which go into the majority of the gear that you're going to be making for crafters and gatherers. They do go into some of the accessories, as well as the new material, which we'll be seeing in the next node that we go to. We're just going to be checking out. So this is my stats. So I have 2,263 gathering, 2,285 perception, and we have 829 GP without food. You only need 750 GP if you have these stats in order to start gathering on this node. If you look at our location here, it's 28 by 3 X, 21 by 1 Y, and we're just up on the cliff here, and this is where the node is going to be. For botany, we have 2263 gathering, 2285 perception, and the same amount of GP. And botany is the node that we're going to be gathering here. So if you're not familiar with the rotation, this is how it goes. So we got actually the gathering attempts +2, which is very nice. You get that by having more than 740 GP, which we do have. And the one we're going to be looking at is Tender Dill. So the rotation you're going to be using is very basic. You use Pick Clean, and then Blessed Harvest 2. That gets you the max amount that you need, because we don't need HQ ingredients to do these crafts. We just need to HQ the base materials, which is, we get a pretty high percentage chance with the gear that we currently have from previous patches, and then you just gather as normal. If you get +2 on the gathering attempts, it is very good, because you get an extra 8 Tender Dill, which is 2 2/3 items, because you need 3 per item. And I'll show you exactly the item that we're going to be crafting with this. This is on the same node as the Imperial Fern, by the way. So this is the 12 p.m., 12 a.m. node is what we're looking at. And the for the item that we're going to be crafting is an alchemist item. It's called the Deft's Hand Dissolvent. It uses 3 Tender Dill, 1 Sublime Solution, and 1 of the new Aether Sand. This is going to be used in the majority of the clothing / accessories for crafters and gatherers. And the other node that we have to look at is for, like we mentioned, the Brash Gold ore. We are here in Lakeland over at 5.2x, 33.7y, and it is actually an underwater node, the same one on the 2 p.m., 2 a.m. slot for miners here. And it's the same node as the Fireheart Cobalt that you'll be getting to make the Cobalt ingots. Kind of annoying, because these are 2 that you're definitely going to need. We got lucky enough to get the +1 gathering attempt, which is nice to get more than 2244 gathering. Again, same as before, Pick Clean into King's Yield 2, and then if you have enough GP, you can get an extra 2 by using Bountiful Yield 2 and then hitting that as well. Just continuing, just getting as many as you need. You don't need to do anything crazy. You don't need any HQ ones. You can make them at a consistent level with the current gear that you would have from previous patches, and even not even necessarily the best melds, and get HQ almost all of the time for when you go to craft them. The gear that I have is 2200, 2263 gathering, 2285 perception, and 829 GP, and that is without food, so you can use food as well. Nothing too crazy there. So now that you've seen where we get the botanist and miner nodes, we can now start to take a look at some of the things for the aether sands as well as the slither sands. So first of all, we're going to start off with the 11 strike aether sand. Now you can get this in a multitude of ways. If you have botany and miner, it's a lot better to do it. But if you want to be a bit more chill, you want to just kind of relax and fish, you can get them fishing as well. So the location I'm at here is 16 by 23.7 by minus 0.1. I'm just over here in Ilmeg. You can port to the main port here in Ilmeg, and I'm just on anywhere along this west side of the Longmere Lake will do. And the bait that we're going to want to be using is rubber ball. You can get that from the yellow script vendor in Yulmore. And we also have a macro here for the type of fish that we're going to be catching. It's this macro here, which is basically just telling us to cast at to basically hook it around 23 seconds. The fish can appear anywhere from around 18 seconds to 25, so somewhere in that middle range you're going to want to be pulling up the fish as well. You can use patience here. It's not wrong to do so, because you get higher quality, which is what you want. You want an 8 out of 8 to give you more likely chance of securing the fish. So what we do is we just turn on our collector's glove. I'm not going to use patience here. I just want to see if we can catch the fish just in general. So you would usually use patience, and you're looking for a single exclamation mark for the fish. So we're going to throw the line over here, and what you would do is normally you would wait for patience, and then you would use a cordial immediately afterwards so that you can hook the fish. So basically I just have a macro here which is just going to tell me when to cast. A couple of them that you'll see around the the higher end of time waited for this macro, which is kind of annoying, which is why fishing is not as efficient. But if you just want to sit here and chill and just kind of hit a macro and just kind of go with the flow, then fishing is something that I can highly recommend. So we've waited quite a while there, so this could potentially be the fish. It was pretty much right around our macro, and that is the fish that we're looking for, the Fuchsia Bloom Collectible 182. I think it's around the 130, 140 mark, which gets you 4 out of 8, which guarantees you the 11 strike aether sands. So we're going to hit yes to that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to identical cast and then recast our line. Again, like I said, anywhere from 18 to 20-ish seconds is somewhere around that mark. Sometimes it can be as late as 25 seconds, but once you get it, identical cast and throwing it back over to catch another one is very good. And like I said, the collectability also should be above 130 or thereabouts. You cannot double cast this, unfortunately, because you can only get one collectible at a time. So 106, that one's not going to get us anything, but we can hopefully rely on the other one. So let's go check them out. So if we aether reduce fish, see 3 out of 8. We're not going to get any sands off this one. You can only get it from 4 out of 8. They do, however, give you ice clusters and crystals. And then this last one here is 8 out of 8. So hopefully we can get some sands here, which we did. We got one high quality 11 strike aether sand, which is the new sand that we're looking for. You can get anywhere from 1 to 8 of these at a time. Fishing is a little bit slower because it's a lot more tedious in that regard, because there's multiple fish that you can catch, but this is just one way that you can get the 11 strike aether sand. And the other way you can get the 11 strike aether sand from gathering is via botany or miner. Now there are things called ephemeral nodes in the game, where basically they're nodes that can spawn. As you can see on my map, up in the top right hand corner, you can see that there's the regular nodes here, and there's a little sparkly node. That is the ephemeral node. It has a timed window of 4 AORZ hours for the time being. This one runs from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the way to spawn it is basically you just go on the node like this, you click on it, and then go to another pair of nodes. So these two are right next to each other. So I would go across here and click on the other ones over there. Having the node already being spawned, we can just go straight over to the node and we can show you how the rotation works. You want to have collector's glove on, and we're going to be clicking on the node here. So the item that we're looking at is Thunder Rock. This will get us lightning crystals and clusters for if we don't get the sands, but it will also get the sand as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on it. Right off the start, the first thing you want to do about the rotation, obviously you want to have this where you can get the gathering +2. That's nice. Unfortunately, we didn't this time, and we're just going to go with it here. So what you're going to do is use single mind, which will reduce the number of hits you have to gather the item, so that will make sure that this bar doesn't move. And then utmost caution will reduce the item's tear, so that you don't gain any on this, because we need 4 hits basically when we only have 30 wear, 10 at a time. You need 40 wear total, and you need to use 1 utmost caution. So we'll use that as well. And then we'll use a Pulsive Appraisal so that we can hopefully get a Discerning Eye proc, which we did, which is nice. So you need 2 Discerning Eyes, 1 on an Impulsive and 1 on a Methodical to get the max amount of rarity for this item. So we will use a Single Mind again, and another Impulsive Appraisal. We got another proc, which is fantastic, so we'll use another Single Mind, and then we'll use Methodical Appraisal, and then we'll use 1 last Methodical Appraisal to increase this to the max, and that will allow us for a 4-hit node. We got quite lucky with the 2 procs, so we'll be able to collect 3 here. So we're just going to keep collecting these here. We'll get the 3. These are going to be 8 out of 8s, no problem. And we'll see what we get from here. You'll see how much better it is. See 52 clusters there, so a bit unlucky. Next one, 2 high quality sands. High quality isn't necessary to do the crafts, but it is nicer. And then 4 NQ ones there. And just so I can show you how to respawn the nodes, like I said, you just go to the 2 nearest pairs, and you don't even have to hit the node at all. You just literally just click on it, come off it again, and then go to the other pair, and then click on this pair. Doesn't matter which one. And then you'll see up on my map now that the node has respawned. And then what you want to do is you typically want to get around 3 chances at this node overall in a 4 hours an hour window. If you can get the +2 gathering, that makes a big difference. If you get 2 procs in that, it's insane, because you end up getting like close to 10 of the reducible items, and that can net you around 30 sands in one go, which is, you know, is very good. And this is just one of the very varying nodes. You can go on Garland Tools or FFXIV-gathering.com in the for the timers for when these nodes come up. And typically they're back-to-back in a zone. So usually it's minor botany in the same zone, then it's minor botany in the same zone, and it's minor botany in the same zone. So you can kind of look at those. I'll leave a link in the description below for those 2 websites. So now let's go see the one last place where you can get the 11 strike aether sand. And the last place to get the 11 strike aether sand is in the Scrip exchange for gatherers. If you come here to yield more over to the Scrip exchange at 11.5 and 10.8 in the X and Y coordinates, it'll be under the White Gatherers Scrip exchange tokens. You can see here 11 strike aether sand. It's quite expensive per sand, but I think it's still potentially worth it if you cap them before the patch to buy them. You can save them for gathering material, that's also not an option too, but I think the best way to go about getting these new sands is doing botany and miner if you have both of them. Otherwise do fisher, and then lastly do the gathering collectibles for the botany, miner, or fisher. Also in the yellow script gather exchange, this is where you can get the rubber ball bait that we mentioned for fisher. It's here for 5 yellow scripts per piece of bait, which is quite cheap. And then we can also look at the other sand that we were talking about, slither sand, not through aether reduction, it is through the beast tribe, which we'll get onto in a bit. as well as you can get them from the vendor here. They cost 500 yellow scrips, which is quite expensive normally for just a single item. It costs twice as much as one of the materia, which may seem a bit daunting at first, but we'll show you a way to where we can get a lot of them quite quickly. Also in the white crafter script exchange, this is where you'll need sublime solutions. They were here last patch for 125 white scripts per solution, and you'll need those to craft the Death's Hand dissolvent as well as the brash gold plate. If we also look at the collectible appraiser, we'll be looking at some different items here. So for culinarian, the one that you want to make is rarefied lemonade. It's the best one for white scripts across the board. You get the same number of white scripts no matter what the collectability is across the board, and the way it's so easy to hand them in now. You just click on the item, rarefied lemonade, and you just hit trade, and you can literally just keep mashing trade. It will keep turning them in rather than having to keep going back and forth to your inventory. It's a fantastic way to get scripts, and don't be worried about overcapping. It will make sure that you can't overcap on scripts if you're just bashing the trade button. And if we look to all the other ones, like I mentioned previously, they're all the same number of white scripts no matter what. Nothing changes across the board, and the lemonade one is the easiest to make in terms of the material. So if we look at it just here, it only requires golden honey, which is a pre-craft. Not too difficult, just quick synth them. Underground spring water and amber clothes. The gold honey is made from the giant hives, which you get in the Pixie area. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And then lemonite is just a node which you can find. That's a time node rather. I think it's 6 a.m., 6 p.m. I could be wrong, but like I said, check FFXIV-Gathering or Garland Tools for that. But it is quite easy to make. And then lastly, for yellow scripts, the best one to make is for Alchemist. So these are all just standard gathering nodes, except for the Cubus Flesh, which you can get from your retainer. It's just a battle item, and you can also get it from other means as well. If you do a lot of fates, you'll have a lot of bright stones probably saved up potentially. You can go trade it at one of the vendors. There's one in the Ondu Cups, I think it's how it's pronounced, in the Tempest. You can trade them to the bright stones to him there, and you can get Cubus Flesh in exchange, as well as a bunch of different other items. But if we look at like all the other ones as an example, we'll look at Weaver. You need Ovum Wool, which is a craft, Zonzori Leather, which is a craft, Hard Silver Nuggets, which is a craft. It's just a lot of hassle. It's a lot less crafting to do. And this is easily macroable, no problem. So we're going to go ahead and do that here. So my current stats are 2,444 craftsmanship, 2,323 control, and we have 550 CP. We have the max amount of CP that you can have, because it makes crafting a lot easier, especially when your gear is on par with the item. Our gear is way over it. This crafting gear will help you. The 460, the 430 stuff will help you get through pretty much all of the stuff that you need for the new items. If you're looking here and you're wondering why I have Battlecraft material on it, it was because I was spirit bonding with this gear on this character before the patch started, and haven't melded my current gear that I've made. So the macro that we'll be using today is just this one here, which is the syrup yellow scripts macro. Pretty straightforward, so we're just going to execute it here. So it's just reflect into innovation, 4 delicate synths, great strides into Biogots, and then a groundwork. And it gets you max collectability every time. We were lucky enough to get an excellent touch. We also got one as well there on the Biogots, which also helps as well. But again, it's overkill. The macro is quite easy. You typically get like 11,000 to 12,000 collectability when you go to craft it with this macro. Pretty straightforward. I will leave a paste bin for that below, or a text file or something like that for this macro here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to see how to also get the slither sands as well after we just hand in this. So yeah, again, you just go here, bang, trade, And just like that, 198 yellow scrips, 2.5 of those get you a slither sand, and they're super cheap. The items you can get, these two you can get from your retainer, the kudzu root and the underground spring water, as well as the kubus flesh, and they're all easy to gather as well. Don't need anything crazy there to get these items, and you can make a boatload of them and turn them in to get a lot of the slither sands. So here we are at the other place where you can get the slither sand. So there's a bunch of different quests that you have to do. So the main quest is called Ronnet to the Rescue. That starts in Kalusha, and there's 2 quest chains called A Village of Woe and A Disagreeable Dwarf. Those 2 quest chains will start in Kalusha as well, and they will basically take you here in Lakeland, over just off the Ostal Imperative Port, and will be over here near where it's called the Watts Anvil. This is where the Beast Tribe is. My Beast Tribe's quests have not reset yet, which is why you don't see them, but you will pick them up from this little dude right here, Regit, I think his name is. And the main place where you're going to be turning in your currency, which is, I'll just show you really quickly here. So we have the Hammered Fragment is the item that you'll be getting, much like how you got the Qatari Complement and the Fey Fancy for the other 2 Beast Tribes. The Hammered Fragment is the one for this. So you just go to the vendor here. They also have all of the base crafting stuff that you would find for leveling crafters. It's a great way to level crafters, insane amount of XP. That's what I'm doing on one of my other characters here. But what you do is you go under his this guy here, Mizut, the Anvil Vendor, Hammered Fragment Exchange, and then you can see the bunch of different items that you can get. You can save them up for crafting material, but this is where you can also get slither sand. You can get 3 per day. You get 1 per quest. You get 3 quests in total per day, and they reset once a day. And if you have multiple characters, you can get multiple sets of slither sand. So basically, you just pick however many you want, and you just buy them accordingly. I think the yellow script one is a bit better, because this is obviously only a daily thing. You can only get 3 if you only have 1 character, and the yellow script is you can get as many as you want, as much as you want to craft. So, but these are just the 2 options to get the slither sand for crafting the new items. Another thing before we start to actually craft the items that you should also pay attention to for both crafting and gathering is something that they changed a while back for the patches for how to get materia. So there was an exploit with the little the rank like 8 items that you could use to just kind of continually break to gain spirit bond. But they also made a change as well a little while back where when you get 100% spirit bond, you don't have to basically convert the item completely. What you do is, this item here is 100% spirit bound. You just hit extract materia and it will get you a materia of gathering. I happen to get a Gatherer's Grasp 7, and you can do that for any item that hits 100% spirit bond. And then what it will do, as you can see here, is it will return it back to 1% spirit bond without extracting any of them, any material from your actual item that you already have melted. So it's a good way to get yourself some materia. For battle jobs, the new dungeon is quite good for spirit bonding there. For spirit bonding now, just basically hitting nodes for gathering, and then crafting is a lot more difficult though. You have to pop up a bunch of spirit bond stuff, so you would use stuff like the superior spirit bond potion, you would use the spirit bond squadron manual, which you can get, and you would use where is the food, things called the better crown pie. Here it is. Yeah, better crown pie, which would increase your spirit bond, and that allows you to just get some little bit extra materia. And if you're using the like the tokens for the slither sands, and you just want a bit of extra material, because you're going to need them for the melds for your new gear. Alright, now that you've gathered up all your materials, it's time to start crafting. So if we look at my current stats here, we have 2549 craftsmanship, 2241 control, and 626 CP. The food that we're using, which the stats are included on, I've already activated it, is this food here, which gives me plus 70 CP and plus 105 craftsmanship. This is just what I've been using from the previous patches. I didn't have as good of melds for this patch going forward. I didn't have max melds or anything. So this shows that you can even use even as little stats as I'm using and still be able to create the items with relative ease. So we're going to be crafting the brash gold plate here. I'm just going to use all NQ mats just to show. So we're going to hit synthesis here, and we're going to be looking at the macros that we're going to be using. So this is the first macro that we have here. So it's reflect, manipulation, innovation, 4 prudent touches, innovation, 4 prudent touches again, manipulation, and innovation, and that is the end of the first part of the macro. So it's pretty straightforward here, just getting a bit of quality. Usually when I do this with NQ mats, it ends up around like the low 80% chance to HQ. You don't need all HQ mats in order to do the final product. It just helps out a little bit better. And statistically, 4 and 5 will be HQ, which is more than enough for you to HQ the final craft. You can also change your macro for the second macro that I have here. In the event that you were to get a poor, you know, I have great strides and then Baragots as the next 2 steps for my macro number 2. And if you had an excellent here, you could just hit Baragots instead. You could have a macro that just hits Baragots and then continues on. I was just a bit lazy here, but again, that's just something that you can do. So if you see that you have an excellent here, you would just hit Baragots basically. If you have a good or normal, doesn't really matter. You'll be fine nonetheless, but it just makes it a little bit better if you wanted to do a bit of manual crafting. So yeah, we're just going to execute the next macro here. So it's great strides into Baragots, which will get us, it's around 70% here, so we have a little bit less. Then you have name of the elements, 3 brand of the elements, veneration, careful synth, and then basic synthesis. So if we look at the amount of CP that we have at the end of this, we have 9, so you have enough to do and observe if you wanted to, you know, in the event that you know, didn't get the item that you, or didn't get the HQ that you wanted. I'm just going to use an HQ sand just to show the difference. Again, the fluctuation in goods will change the percentage. That looked like it was a little bit on the lower end. On average, it's around 80% with the stats that I have. So we're just going to hit the macro once again here. And we're just going to let it run. Pretty straightforward. I do recommend that if you're kind of, you know, you're crafting and you want to have something on the side, maybe a little bit of, you know, Netflix or something like that, put one of these little SE.2s in there. That's just a little thing that gives you a little bling to let you know when the macro's done. And I have a statement that says macro 1 complete. You can have it say hit macro 2 or something like that. So just so we got a good there, and you see how much higher of a percentage we're at the moment. So we're going to hit macro 2. It's a normal, so this should be around the 89-90% mark. Yep. So it's a lot higher. Mind you, this could NQ as well. Again, we're not really too fussed here with HQ or NQ. We just kind of want to complete the item. If it's HQ, makes it a lot better. We can HQ the other items, the alloys and the leathers and that sort of stuff that you also need for the craft in order to get that done. See, that one NQ'd. It's just a luck of the draw, personally. For just a macro here, but nothing too crazy here for what we need. In terms of what we're going to be making now is we're going to be going on to making the gear. Once you've made a bunch of those dissolvents and stuff, you'll be looking at leatherworker and all that sort of stuff. I have some of the gear already made, and we're going to be moving on to that macro for how to create the new gear. I also forgot to mention that there are other materials that you'll be adding into your inventory for crafting and gathering. So one of those things is the other gathering nodes here. So like we mentioned, the fire hard cobalt is going to be used to make the ingots. We also have other ones here as well. So the pure shell chip is going to be making the goldsmith item. The ashen alumine is going to be used in making the leatherworking item. And then for the botanist, we have the marble log, I think that's how you pronounce it, making the lumber for carpenter. And then dusk bloom is used for weaver, and these are all at various different times. You can see once you've hit them, you can see what time they're at, and you could just go on, like I said, you can go on to the FFXIV gathering.com, or various different sites to check out when the timers are. I'll put the links in the description for them below for the ones that I use. And also, we have one other thing that you'll need to be getting as well. We're just going to port over to Yulmore. So the last thing that you'll need, and this is where battle classes come in handy, because they allow you to make some money for the items that everyone is going to need. They're going to be selling for, you know, several thousands of gil per item, and they're relatively cheap for just when you're capping on a day-to-day basis for your, you know, for your tomes. So what you do is you come over here to the Tomestone Exchange, and you go under Phantasmagoria Other in Yulmore, and the items that you're going to be wanting is Dwarven Chromite, Caprice Fleece, Megalonian Skin, Workbench Resin, and Tempest Adhesive. The dried ethers are used for pots, but that's an older item. But the Tempest Adhesive, the Workbench Resin, the Megalonian Skin, the Caprice Fleece, and the Chromite are all used in the ingots, lumbers, you know, cloths, all that sort of stuff that you need to craft. So if you look at Leatherworker here, we need 5 leather, 2 pure bead. So if we look at the crafting method for the leather, we need the skin, as we saw before, and the ashen alum, and these are the most important things, because you need a lot of these items. So as you saw, to craft the new gathering top, you need 5 of these leathers beforehand, 4 of the dissolvents, and 2 of the pure beads, as well as 4 of the slither sand. So you need a lot of items just to make one. They do decrease slightly depending on the size of the item, but the tops are going to be, you know, a lot more items here. So we're going to give this a whirl here. We're going to give this a whirl here, and we're just going to go ahead and craft the item here, just to show you again for our stats. 2529 craftsmanship, 2221 control, and 611 CP. The food that I was using, as mentioned before, was this one right here. But you also have to use, with the amount of CP that I have, the Cunning Craftsman syrup, and that's just in case we were to get a pour for the Bar Gods. We can basically circumvent that with a different macro. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put 3 dissolvents. I only have HQ leathers and HQ pure beads, so I'm actually going to do 2 and 2 here, just to see how it kind of goes, and we shall see how it goes. You want around 14k thereabouts for the craft. I'm actually, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to do 3 here. It's not the end of the world. I mean, these ones you can HQ quite easily. Again, you have to take into consideration that slither sand you cannot get HQ. So we're going to go ahead and hit synth here, and then we're going to bring up the macro that we're going to be using first. So this is the one that we're using off the bat here. So around 8 to 9% quality is what you want to start off with. So muscle memory, inner quiet, waste not, manipulation, veneration, groundwork, innovation, 4 delicate synths, innovation. I then use final reprisal just in case my last delicate synth were to go over. I know it doesn't for Leatherworker. I know one of my other classes that has a little bit more stats because of being a was it an expert or whatever, when you have the soul of the crafter equipped, a specialist, that's the word I was looking for. That's what you're going to be. Sometimes I get a bit more craftsmanship for that, and then it takes it over the top. So we just put it there just in case if you're not too sure. So that's macro 1 number done. Macro number 2 is this one here, which is just 3 prudent touches, innovation, 2 more prudent touches, and then great strides. And then we have 2 different macros depending on if we have a pour when we go to hit macro number 3. So if we had a pour here, I would hit yellow macro number 3, which would just be innovation again, and then Bar God's Blessing into a basic synth. Since we don't, we would hit macro the purple or the other colored one here for the macro, which is basically Bar Gods into a basic synth, which will be enough to finish the craft. But we do, as you can see, have enough for if we were to hit innovation here, because 18 CP for innovation, 24 for Bar God's Blessing is 42, so we would still have 1 left over if we had to use it. So we kind of compensate for that, and that's where the potion comes in handy, the Cunning Craftsmanship potion. So we're just gonna hit the purple one here. We're going to hit execute, 100% HQ, and then HQ with the last basic synth finishing it off. I'm just going to do one, let's see if we can find another one here. We will do the, let's do the boots of crafting. I'll use 4 of those, I'll use 2 of those, and one of, we'll use one of these. So we'll go down to 12,000, and we'll use the same amount for leatherworker, just so we can show you how, you know, how reliable it is for that. So we'll hit synth, and then we'll just execute the first macro, which we have here again. Again, this is a little bit on the lower side, so this is 7%, so we may have to potentially intervene, but again, the macro should be, you know, quite good for you. Once you start adding the different pieces to your set and you start melting them, it's going to be more than enough. You won't even have to have that many HQ materials once you have melt and that sort of stuff, and then you can just quick synth the Death's Hands dissolvents and that sort of stuff, and you'll be overkilling the macro, you know, the craft, as it were, with no problem. So let's see how this one goes. We'll then hit macro number 2. And typically once you get a couple of goods, you're usually fine. Again, we're in the 20% bracket, so we're pretty okay here. Again, if you were to get a poor, I would use innovation again just to refresh it, and then use Biogod's and basic synth. That's the macro that we have. But we're gonna hit our other one here, which just hit Biogod's blessing. It actually is 91%, so it's not actually all the way there, but we still got the HQ in the end. So again, just proving there that you needed to have around 14k. So we're going a little bit on the lower side. If you have a bit more control, that will help out as well, because I have a really low stats for control for this gear, because again, if you look at my weapon here, I just have CP in the weapon for leatherworker on this character. 22, 21 control. If you add an extra 100 in there, you're probably definitely going to be in the 100% mark. With the main crafts, better to have more HQ than not. So if I was crafting this, you know, out of just to make sure that I definitely got it, that was obviously just to show you guys, I would definitely go with at least this at a bare minimum, leaving one item here in queue. With the bigger items, there's a lot more forgiving because there's more HQ items you can have. So I can go with 2 dissolvents, I can go with 5 HQ ones here. And I can be a little bit closer to 14k. If I go with 3 items, it takes it over the top, and then it's, you know, so just 1 NQ item with the slither sand is probably you know, good enough for these stats. Again, the required for the craft is 2195 control, so you can definitely do it without that. But to macro it, I had you know, around 30 more than the required control. If you have even 100 more or 150 more, then you're definitely going to be good there. But then you can start equipping the weapons and that sort of stuff to obviously boost your stats, and just make sure that when you go do equip the weapon that you're going to have more stats, because sometimes they obviously don't have maxed out CP, which you definitely need in order to do these crafts, which will make it so that you don't have to use this craftsman syrup, especially when you get the likes of the accessories and that sort of stuff. And that's going to do it for this crafting and gathering guide for patch 5.3. Make sure to check out, like I said, the links in the description below. Give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch, where we'll be doing streams for Final Fantasy XIV in the weeks to come. Potentially doing some fun content, some rating content, maybe some crafting content. This is just my first crack at a guide, and I think it's gonna go quite well. It's just pretty straightforward stuff. Crafting is a lot of fun for people that have tried it, and I think it's quite a lot of fun. And the experiences that you can have when you make a whole bunch of gil for the items that you're selling to people. There's nothing better than coming and checking your retainer the next morning and seeing that you have several millions of gil because of the items that you sold overnight. And also, gil is kind of important because it allows you to get other things like material or something that's a little bit more difficult to get going forward. So That's going to do it from our master crafter and gatherer Pilot Flame himself. Hopefully he was helpful in helping you guys get your gear for patch 5.3. As mentioned before, make sure to like the video if you enjoyed the guide, and maybe there's another guide you want to see me do in relation to crafting and gathering. And also make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're going to be putting the videos on this channel for the time being. We may split it off to like a Pilot Flame games later on. But yeah, let me know how I did. Let me know in the comments below. I think I covered everything, but yeah, links will be in the description for stuff like the Beast Tribe on where to start the quest, as I've already completed them, as well as the sites and resources used for crafting and gathering. So that's going to do it for this one. Hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next video, take care.